Moderating this fantastic panel is Frédéric Bove. Frédéric Bove is Executive Director of Prompt, a government-funded non-for-profit whose role is actually to support and finance, through financing, R&D and innovation projects. So thank you very much for the important work that is being done, Frédéric, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you. So we got professionals here. We're going to talk about big money, if I really understand what the topic is about. So I'm Frédéric Bove, CEO of Prompt. With me, Éric Durand from National Bank, Jean-Claude Théoret from X-Machina.
Just Claude.
Sorry?
Just Claude.
Just Claude.
Okay.
Nassim Bennacer from Ernst & Young, Éric Durand from sorry, I got Bertrand, it's my mistake. Some from Triptyq Capital. Bit nervous, stress, so I'm gonna breathe a little bit and everything will be perfect. So just a few words and really your experience and what is exactly your job, starting with Éric.
Well, I'm Senior Manager in the Creative Industries Group at National Bank. It's a group that has been in existence for 20 years now, supporting all creative industries across Canada. We have offices in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver. So basically, we provide financing and banking solution to motion picture industry, all creative industries, video game industry, and anything that creates content for an eventual user or viewer.
Thank you. And Claude?
I founded probably Montreal's first AI company way back in like 2006. So I have 2 patents in unsupervised learning, and then raised money and exited my company in 2017. Since then, I turned around like public companies that do a little bit of AI, and I'm the CEO of a new venture called X-Machina, which buys and funds AI companies in a conglomeration.
Thank you. Nassim?
Nassim or Nas. I'm a senior manager at EY. I work with a team of about 100 of us across the country, represents over 1,000 clients a year, and really everything related to non-dilutive financing through either tax credits or subsidy programs, such as Prompt, from early stage to multinational type companies.
Cool.
Bertrand.
Bert. It's my English name. It's easy. So entrepreneur turned investor. So started a company called Vervana in 2005. We did AR VR on a headset. Took 12 years to become an overnight success. Sold it to Apple in 2017. Then moved to California for 3 years. First year did rapid prototyping internally, then found a big problem to solve, and we moved to the AI department at Apple. So I learned AI, sur le tas, comme on dit, for 2 years there. It was great, and came back last year, now 2 years ago, worked another 6 months there. And we got an opportunity to start a venture capitalist fund in entertainment tech. So we've been at it for 18 months now, and we're about to close in the following weeks. So we're super excited.
Good. So for our audience, we got heavyweight professionals here. But what I really want to understand is the difference between you, a bank, capital. What exactly you're doing in your field? Are you, is it competition, or sometimes you're complementary, working together?
Well, I would say we're more complementary. As a bank, we're lenders, we're not investors. So we'll provide the banking solution or loan solutions to a company that has a certain likelihood to repay the bank in a certain certainty or in a short time frame. But sometime when you're developing a project, you need some more patient capital, and those guys will certainly be more involved in that portion of the transaction.
Yeah, we definitely work with almost every part of the ecosystem here. So obviously for VCs, we acquire companies outright. Our thesis is that, and right now in the market meltdown that we're seeing, 50% of Series A's are on hold right now. So what that means is that, if you don't have ×3 growth metrics, ×5 now, you're not going to get a Series A. So we acquire companies that are growing and profitable, but growing at a much lower rate than what VCs would normally do. So VCs love us. And obviously we want to work with as much as non-dilutive capital as possible. So I've done a lot of shred financing in the past. I've done a lot of Paris, I forgot how to say that in English. And of course the banks. IRAP, of course, which is a great program. And you got to work with the banks as well. So if we can get right now we're working on acquisitions. So if we can get a debt portion of that cash that goes out, it's less diluted for us because we're a public company. So we actually are working together.
Nassim, on your side.
Yeah. I'm the only guy here that has no money. So, but I open doors. I go knock on doors for entrepreneurs to get them money. I would say that it's something that investors, acquirers, and bankers look at. So you should build it into your models. It's an asset. It's something that can be financed. So, often we hear startups struggling or, trying to knock on doors to get, diluted and, investors to invest in them, but they're sitting on, $1 million, $500,000 worth of financeable asset, which they can go knock on door at IQ. They can work with their banker. They can go and work, with third-party lenders. But it's a means to an end. You were saying, I'm struggling to make paycheck in my previous startup, but it's something that can be financed. So, there's an interest rate related to it, but often startup entrepreneurs don't understand that, but I'd rather pay interest than dilute myself. So again, I have no money, but I can help you go and get non-dilutive sources of income. And you have to take it into consideration because your investors or your purchasers will be looking at that in your balance sheet.
Okay, in a way, you help people to decrypt into the riddle of the financing ecosystem in a way.
Correct. It's what we were talking about. It's a really challenging landscape because there's too many players and there's too many programs, and the programs change after each budget. So my nighttime reading in March, April is often the federal or the provincial budgets just to see the new sources of money, and then using our network of connections within the government and the different entities so that we can make sense of it. And then I don't know, the challenge around it is like, does it apply to me, right? Does that program work for me? And am I going to lose time applying for something that, because of experience, we know you're not going to get it. So perhaps that's not the best door to go knock on. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What else to add? I think VC is a contact sport. So you need to know as many people as possible because, when I was an entrepreneur, sometimes I would how can I say this nicely, kind of judge the venture capitalist, and because, it's very transactional, you pitch, you get said no and all that. And I saw that with time, they would really want to help, they would give constructive feedback, and you kind of learn to get a thick skin and everything. So all that network that you build as an entrepreneur, I think once you become a VC, you can leverage that and make connection. And it's all about trust because usually entrepreneurs, they hope to get finance in a month, but I tell them it will take you 6 months to get finance. And people like to have a movie, but to do a movie, you need lots of pictures. And the more pictures you have every few weeks show progress, then you build confidence, and then you can go see other kind of partners like banks or the Big Four, and they will help you, leverage your with non-dilutive, with finance, shred credits and all that, and so that you can extend your runway and show traction and then raise your next round and all that.
So let's move on and speak about the target. Which company, which kind of company you would choose to work? And first, who comes to you, really? Is that all kind of company? Is that the small one? Or do you target specific companies in a way?
Maybe I can. Well, as a bank, we have all sorts of line, really small one to really big ones.
Yeah.
I would say the group I work with work more with medium-sized business. We have a few startups. In our group, we're looking for creative business, so business that are creating content, as I said earlier. And we're looking for business that are profitable or that have a certain tax credit, so we know that eventually the check is going to come in from the government. They will be able to repay the bank with the check, so we will bridge that portion. But we're definitely not, looking for businesses that would be strongly cash flow negative and needing to fund the operations for like 2 to 3 years or something like this. We're more in the short-term, more profitable business that will be able to.
So not too much risky.
No, we're at the low end of the spectrum in terms of risk as a bank, but we're the cheapest financing, except if you get subsidies and all that stuff. But if you have something that's free, grants and everything, it's cheaper than the bank. But after that, I would say bank financing is generally the cheapest financing you will find. So,
Sure.
But we don't take as much risk, and we don't get as much reward either.
Yeah.
If you have a success,
That's what I mean.
if you have a success, we get our 5%, and that's it. So,
You get first rank.
yeah, yes, that's for sure.
You
Of
guys
what?
get first rank.
Of what? First rank of what?
We're in common shares, so like, so what we do is, so having grown an AI company from scratch, and like Nas was there like almost from day one. AI companies, we want to acquire AI companies, and there's a very big Anderson Horowitz kind of like paper that came out that really says like AI is not like financing SaaS. Okay, it doesn't have the same multiples, right? But it can, with some of the great things about AI are that maybe some of the churn is lower, but there's a big service component. I don't think there's one AI company that is pure play software. And when it is, like at least when I do it, or what I want to see is like, if you really have good AI, you shouldn't even see the damn thing. It just does the job, and you're looking at normal something or other, okay? And so for the first thing we're looking is for AI companies. And then the verticals we like to look at are like the boring kind of AI. I don't want self-driving cars, okay? I don't want like killer robots, although I have a little penchant. I may want killer robots later on because I actually kind of like that. And we're thinking of going into entertainment tech as well. But the bread and butter of what we're looking at is supply chain, manufacturing, and everything that has to do with first resources and agri-tech. We really believe that, and I think AI is entering its industrial phase. As we saw in some of the talks this morning, like machine learning is now like almost a commodity. So AI is getting right across there. And so in terms of like what we like to see in financials, we like to see minimum, like I said, we're kind of like helping out VCs get some of their exits. So we look for profitable because we're a public audit. We just became a public issuer.
Okay.
Every 4 months. Like the audit team is in my office right now, by the way. So every 4 months we have audited financials we have to show progress, right? So we want to have companies that are already profitable. So if you're waiting for your Series A and you haven't done the downsizing or anything like that, it's not for us. But we will, if you were going to do a Series A or even a little bit bigger round, and you had an idea, we will fund the company, and during that time, it'll be unprofitable, right? So that's kind of like what we're looking at right there. Profitable, 20% to 50% growth rate per year, and doing, boring AI.
Nassim?
Yeah, I work, cross industries, really pretty much in all scale of companies, but in the AI field, there's definitely been in the fintech and the ed tech, there's been quite a few different companies that we've supported and worked with. We've been involved with Zoo in the first 2 years of their programs, and again, it's it wasn't the best of time, let's just say, for entertainment the last 2 years, but as we're exiting that cycle, and then they're incorporating, elements of artificial intelligence in their applications. It's a nice combination. It's just one where, and especially in the cycle that we're in right now, it may be very challenging to raise, money. But, some of the companies that they've had in Zoo and that we've worked with, we've had the pleasure to work with, some great ideas out there. So it's just seeing, like trying to help them along, but seeing which ones are going to be able to convert and really scale. I think is going to be the next challenge of the, coming year, realistically. But yeah, I work with, agri-tech, fintech, tech, deep tech, vision companies, you name it, manufacturers, and that's what I think Claude said too,
You take
right?
it all. Yes.
Yeah, we take it all, but it's also like where AI comes in. Like now, you are seeing, traditional manufacturers that are completely, changing their processes, implementing, IoT and devices and data, and like they have to do it, otherwise they won't survive, right? And like the labor shortage, which is like exasperated right now, is just leading to opportunities for a lot of startups to be able to work with these large companies, through Prompt, through Invest,
Yes.
AI. So it's actually pretty exciting to see that, 5 years ago, an AI startup would have gone to knock at a large manufacturer and it would have been like, take a hike. Whereas like now there's actually programs to support that. And I'm actually seeing, larger companies kind of embracing it and working with startups. So it's a pretty cool opportunity that I say 5 years, but like seriously 2-3 years ago that it wasn't happening, right? So
It seems more fun to work with startups than large companies.
what's that, sorry?
It seems more fun to
Yeah,
work.
well, I think before too, like just large companies weren't thinking of that, but like innovation's really definitely in startups, right? I don't think it's per se in larger organizations because of I work in a very rigid large corporation, but it's pretty cool to see what startups are doing, right? And
Is there anybody from IBM Watson in the crowd? Okay, well, if you've ever tried to work with IBM Watson, okay, to do AI inside a startup, I would say like 70% of people have had a very negative effect. So you did?
We tried, then we had the corrupt data and like,
Yeah, like I've known companies.
she said, we have corrupt data, sorry.
Yeah, I've known companies who spent $5 million on Watson and came out of it like with more stuff having to spend. So it's not just a cool thing. It's actually because of the very nature of AI itself. I actually think what I say is that software ate the world, but AI is eating software faster. Okay, so there will be an overtaking, and it's actually like I said, it's not pure SaaS. If you have a little bit of a service component, any good, decent, small shop can do the model because of the democratization of the tools. Like TensorFlow is free, PyTorch is free. I use Spacey a lot to do NLP, but like the new NLP tools are just like mind-blowing. And you need like, 4 or 5 smart people, right? And maybe a lot of servers.
Yeah, I do agree that innovation comes from startups and not big companies. Like even at Apple, you would imagine, Apple's very innovative. Sure, but they're mostly integrators. They will take the best innovation out there, put it together, polish it like crazy, and make it a shiny diamond that you'll pay a lot of money for. So for us, because of that, that's the reason why I decided to kind of go on the other side of the table, is because if you look at the rankings in OCDE, I don't know in English, OCDE. Anyway.
OECD.
Oh, yeah. Like Canada on productivity is one of the last one, if not the last one, because unfortunately, we don't embrace innovation and our productivity is lower. So I think that we need to really change that mentality and take more risk. And we need specialized VCs, a bit like in the Valley. So when I got approached to work with Zoo, the incubator, I was excited because I wish Zoo existed in 2014 or 2015 when we were raising money, because to get great mentors, to get great specialists in the field that will help you with the heavy lifting is really important. And what kind of company we're looking for is the majority of our investment will come through the Zoo incubator. So if you're in entertainment tech, So what is entertainment tech? So if you use technology to change the future of entertainment, then we're excited about it. And we have three main segments. We have tools. So any tools that will help build the pipeline. So everybody's talking about the metaverse, but there's still lots of things to build in the metaverse. And if you're building a tool that will help solve the problems in that space, we're interested. Platforms and marketplace, so anything about AR, VR, blockchain, NFTs, we're interested. And the last segment is fan engagement. So if you're an artist and you want to connect with your fans and you can monetize and be more interactive, like esports and whatnots, that's something we're interested in. And me personally, I like when I get approached that you at least have a proof of concept. So if it's only like a plan like if you only have a deck or you only have like a business plan, that's not for us. You need at least to have a few co-founders, 3 minimum, I think. It can be 2, but not 1. But at least 3 is better. Complementary skill set, have a proof of concept. Doesn't have to be pretty, just show the potential. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm very open and see the potential in things. So just show me that you can build something from your mind to reality, and then you can come at the Zoo Incubator, and then we'll fund the best startup out of the incubator.
Bertrand, you said something earlier. You spoke about confidence. You spoke about trust, and that is a question for all of you guys. How do you build trust? How do you trust the people with who you will invest in, the company you will invest in, or how do you build confidence? Also, is that something difficult? Is that just a feeling? Is that experience? Is that something tangible? You have 4 months to show numbers, as you said. So, what is your tips, your secrets?
That's hard. I mean, I think the hard part of startups is a human part, like for people, certainly technologists like us. But I was around the ecosystem in 2006 when this started off in Montreal, and I really do believe in the ecosystem. So I'm an investor in the Orbit Fund, which is purely just an ecosystem fund. And I've done a lot of mentoring in the past, and I've probably hired like 100 or 200 people over the last 15 years. So I really believe you build trust by not being a douche. Okay, so which is our motto at X-Machina. Okay. So, but also your employer brand is
no
fantastic.
Brilliant jerks.
None. Hate that. You know, and I'm wrong all of the time. Like, I'm an astrophysicist in my background, and somebody once asked me, "What's it like being an astrophysicist?" I go, "Well, you ever get lost in the map in the country? You don't speak the language, you don't have a map." That's me, right? So you got to be authentic, but the last part, okay? There's 2 types of trust. There's a trust to not fuck up, and that you just demonstrate. You know, like, hey, I made a bit of money. All my clients are happy, my employees. So you demonstrated that you could do trust. And then, you know, the other trust is not to fuck people over. Mm-hmm. Okay, so don't fuck up and don't fuck people over. And the fucking people over part, that's just your track record. And that, in a small town like Montreal, you do 5-6 people bad, it's going to come back. Okay, so for me, trust is built on those 2 types of fuck yous.
Thank you. That's direct. What can I say after that? For an institution like a bank, trust, it seems very important.
Trust is very important. Anything,
maybe in the words too.
Anything that has to do with credit is based on trust. You know, there are the numbers, the ratios, and all that stuff. But basically, we need to trust the person that's going to take the money from the bank and eventually repay the bank. So I would say never lie to your banker. I know you did, but
Nope.
but trust is based on what's your track record, who builds the business, who do you work with? You work with a serious firm, you work with someone we don't know, who's referred you to us. All that builds trust for the bank. Who are your partners? Who's going to buy your product? And it brings confidence to the banks. And we're ready to advance more money when we have trust. But I would say trust is one of the most important thing in credit. Above the numbers and everything. Even if the numbers are good, if we don't trust you, you won't have any money from the bank.
Thank you. Nassim?
Yeah, I guess it's different for me, but it is based on relationships, right? So working with people, like today, the ecosystem's matured a lot. People have exited, so you'll end up working with them again. So it's really the relationships you've built. Also referral partners, right? Like Claude's a very good referral partner. Yet he was a client back in the day, right? But today, when he refers me to someone, well, I take the pride in trying to serve that client, properly, and then it just kind of exponential, right, itself. And that's the thing, Montreal's a pretty small city, so I do work with a lot of assholes over the years, but you learn from it, right? Like people that won't pay you or people that just make it hard on your staff, don't respect people. But like today, we're a lot quicker to walk away from those types of individuals because it's not worth me asking one of my employees to take that abuse, right? And again, Montreal's a pretty small city, so that's it. But yeah, it's very different from a service provider point of view. And yeah, we walk away and people don't pay us, but it's not the end of the world. And just kind of like, that person for the future. And, and people call each other and ask like other big four, other professional firms, lawyers, bankers call, we all talk to each other kind of thing. Hey, what do you think about XYZ? Well, I'm like, hey, XYZ, this is what happened kind of thing. So it's just kind of like, yeah, don't burn your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, there's different level of trust. I think there's, you need to walk the talk. If you tell me you'll do something, maybe it will take a bit longer, like we've all been through this, but for me, like don't oversell everything because like you just put expectation too high and then it's really hard to deliver. So I like the Jean Chrétien, like low expectation, high delivery kind of thing, No, he said that himself.
Okay, he said okay.
No.
I didn't know he said that himself.
Yeah, he said that. Personally in my life, I try to do that too, like to not put the bar too low, but like just say, okay, this I'm 100% sure I can deliver, and then always try to deliver more. And so that builds trust. When you see that like the entrepreneur will like over deliver, then you say, okay, I can trust it. But there's also the trust between the VC and the team. And sometimes, like, if you want me to help you as an entrepreneur who've been through it, and now as an investor, you need to be an open book and tell me everything. I won't judge you. Like, I've been on the brink of bankruptcy like six, 7 times. Like I didn't know how to make pay, like bad nights for a year and a half. Like I've been through all of it, so I have a lot of empathy. But you need to be able to open and share the pain, and that way I can help better with my experience and my network. So I think these are the two kind of trust that I look for in entrepreneurs. And yes, you need to be vulnerable. And I shared something on LinkedIn today about that. I think nobody wants to be vulnerable, but it's part of life. And it shouldn't be just like your significant other that see vulnerability. I had experience at Apple where I showed vulnerability to my team, and they repaid me like 10 times. So it was a learning experience, and I encourage you all to be more vulnerable.
Yeah. And how do you properly identify innovation within the project you choose?
It's a good question. I think first it needs to solve like a problem that a lot of people ask. Like, because sure, innovation, you can have innovation like, I don't remember, but I think the laser was invented like, I don't know, like 10 or 20 years before like they use it on CDs and things like that. So, or whatever, you know, sometimes you can have a really cool thing, but you don't have like real use case. So I think that it needs to be applied innovation. How do you see it is like, does it make things more frictionless? So for me, I go back to the 10x rule. Like if it makes your life 10 times easier or 10 times more productive, then I think because people resist change all the time. And the pandemic was a great forcing function. Like Apple, we all had computers, you know, MacBooks and everything, but there was no way in hell that we could do remote work. There were really control freaks and everything. We're a hardware company. We need to be together, blah, blah, blah. But when the pandemic hit, they had no choice. So it was a forcing function. And then they were like, oh my God, we're as productive. Oh my God, like I wouldn't have guessed. So I think that mindset of change being difficult, like innovation needs to be so much better that people will embrace it and make change and then become profitable. So so that's kind of the things I'm looking for is like what you're solving, is it like applicable to a lot of people? Can you scale it easily? If it's services, like that's not something we're interested in as a VC. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Nassim?
Yeah, I guess again, I work, with innovation. I'm on the sideline of innovations, right? I walk in and walk out of companies all the time, but for me, it's bigger than that, right? Like there's investment projects, plan expansion. It's very, very broad how we choose people that we work with, but it is really relationship based. Do we like the projects? Do we believe the entrepreneur, what they're telling us, you know? And then there has been cases where we've walked away just because, you know, it's bullshit and it's BS, and I can make money out of it, but it's like I don't want to do that, right? So it's kind of where we do take a step back often, and we're just kind of like, there's no fit, and you know, if there's no fit, there's probably somebody else out there in the ecosystem that will want to work with you, but done in a polite way, right? We never kind of like just tell people take a hike, but that's it.
Thank you.
Well, I worked at Nortel like way long ago, so I'm pretty old that way. But you know, I saw amazing innovation like just stay on the factory floor. They had cell phones that we used inside. We had the biggest industrial building in Canada, and I was walking around like I'd just been upgraded from a guy with a pager to this amazing thing, and I was like, I wonder if they could use these things outside, right? My supervisor said, no, we'd have to build these towers all over the place. So Nortel passed up on cell phones.
Wow.
So innovation is, I actually think that a lot of people confuse invention with innovation. So Apple is a very good example, right? Like 95% of what's in an Apple, there was a really good book written by an economist called the Entrepreneurial State, where she demonstrated that most of what's in an iPhone was developed by the state. They're great integrators. You said it yourself. That is innovation. Inventors die poor. Okay? Tesla was an inventor who ate up tons and tons and tons of VC money in his time and would laugh at Thomas Edison going, you're using my patents. Guess what? Thomas Edison built a GE, and innovation is about creating the market for the invention. All right, so I see too many inventors, and Montreal I mean, this is one of the problems that we have. We're cranking out top-notch talents because they're the cheapest tuition rates in North America, right? So we have great universities cranking out amazing technologists. They're inventing stuff, but like you said, like, and I actually had to have this talk this morning. Somebody goes, I want to file a patent first. I have 2 patents. I think I see my patent lawyer out there. There he is. You know, let me tell you, that's I actually wasted I took a fake honeymoon with my wife on a cruise, and I did my patent instead. Wasn't happy, okay? But it's a lot of work, okay? And so before you start looking into this stuff, the very first thing that has a value to innovation is how much money it can generate. And if you don't have either the market making or the industry knowledge to take whatever you've invented and generate cash or recurring revenues out of it, that value monetarily, Mr. Banker here, he's going to tell you that's worth squat.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, if you use technology or invention or innovation, you have to address a market that's reachable now or within a really near future. You know, that's the way you will generate cash flow.
What is
to pay the bank.
the near future? The near future is
Well, for a bank, it's we like you to if I grant you a term loan, for example, you need to start repay next month or in 6 months. So that's pretty near future. For a VC, it may be a little bit further, but the market has got to exist right now. Maybe your technology is not ready to be marketed, but you have to address a market that exists because that's where you're going to sell your product or service and be able to pay the bank, but generate cash flow, because even if they're investors, eventually they want to repay the bank, make more profit, and value their shares. That's the only way they will also make money. So they want the same thing. We all want the same thing. So you use innovation, you use technology, but basically you need to address a market. So you need to work on a product, service, or solution that someone's ready to buy, and in pretty near future, you know.
And there is a 5 minutes left. And what are the trends on the market today? Speaking about inflation, maybe an economic downfall, if I read correctly the papers. And so there is a lot of pressure today on the market, on your side, on the money that is available?
Well, right now it's kind of horrendous, right? You know, Shopify has lost 75% of its share cap. Even Coveo, which is a Quebec success, you know, did its IPO at $20. It's trading at $4. Okay, so we're in a really bad situation here in terms of like funding of tech. Like roughly, from what I'm reading, 50% of Series A checks are going to go on freeze, meaning if you're not profitable, you know, if you met all your requirements and you're hitting your numbers, you're not going to get a check now. And to give you an idea of how bad it is that with the market meltdown we're seeing right now, is that valuations of, let's say, midterm performing SaaS companies have gone on a factor of 6 to 8, which means that if you want $1 billion valuation, which is what the last round was done at, just before you exit, you need to do 6 times more sales, 6 times more revenue. Most of these companies are growing not that fast. So the VC money, a whole bunch of money now is going to be kept for the 1 or 2 companies that are close to crossing the barrier, and everything downstream. A lot of companies now, you just saw it. I saw Sébastien Provencher, which is like, you know, a veteran in the local ecosystem who works a lot in San Francisco. Like massive layoffs are happening right now. So if you're like not profitable, I would talk to your VC or financer, whoever it is, get an honest conversation, like you said earlier, like what's my odds here? What are my new metrics? And if you can't like cut everything to stay afloat, because the next 18 months, we're heading into a reset.
And on the bank side, do you have something to add, or?
Well, not that much. I think recessions and events on the market, like we were just coming out of a pandemic, are usually good for innovation and creativity. I think it brings people to think of new ways of doing things and change. So I see that period, you know, I'm not seeing that period as being a period that could bring a lot of new things to the market, but I think it could bring a lot of new way of seeing things and doing things in the future, and you know, and help us get out of an eventual recession as well. You know,
It could be a reset for innovation as well.
yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
Like when BlackBerry went down, you know, Waterloo became a huge ecosystem with the downfall of BlackBerry.
you know, we used. I mean, it existed before, but who used really Zoom and Teams before the pandemic, and then
Correct.
it went off. So there are a lot of things probably being in their infancy right now that will have a chance to being developed should the market go down.
I think it's the biggest tip would be, be lean, bootstrap. If you have money in the bank, really evaluate the talent you have and, start trimming the fat. If you're pre-revenue, if you got to just survive, because definitely it's tightening up, right? Bankers are, BDC is, investors are, I have seed companies that aren't able to raise their Series A right now. They're like, go find another lead investor and we'll put cash in. So it's, although there are other funds that are raising, and there's an aerospace fund last week in Quebec with 100-something million. Zoo, there's money still out there, but I think they're going to be a lot more critical in the investment rounds and really look at the potential. Because company making $15,000 that raised X amount of millions trying to go for their Series A right now, it's not looking good.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, like even raising a fund right now, it's not easy. Like lots of LPs have pulled, not lots, but some LPs have pulled out. So I think it's probably be the current fund that will need to raise money next year or in 2 years. Who knows? Like JP Morgan said that there's only a 15-20% risk of recession this year, but I think next year it goes at 50%. So like, you need to prepare for that. You should have at least 24 months runway. Try to close your round as fast as possible. There was on PitchBook a report that said the valuation has dropped to half of what it used to. I remember like a few months ago, a friend of mine who's in the Valley sent me a safe from a company that just came out of Y Combinator at 20 million. And it was like what they were solving was not really a big problem. It was like just adding networking in an app. And I was like, wow, those guys think they're worth 20 million. Like I said, it's going to be a reset. And we see now it's becoming more reasonable. And maybe during the pandemic, it was all about growth. Now it's more about profitability, coming back to multiples that, like during the pandemic, it was like P ratios of 25, 30, even
40.
more. 40. Like
Shopify was valued 140 times revenues.
I mean, it's crazy. Now we're going back to more sane multiples.
So what we can agree that future is uncertain, could be certain of that. And that will be our final words. Thank you very much. Our time is up. Thank you very much for being here. And I give you the floor back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.